The smell of garlic still clung to my hands as I dropped onto the couch, spine sinking into the cushions like it always did after a long day. My back ached. Not the sharp, dramatic kind, just a dull, constant throb from hours at the desk, the weight of groceries still imprinted on my fingers. I hadn't even taken off my shoes. Just 30 minutes. That's all I wanted. A quiet half hour before dinner, before baths and bedtime routines, and the next wave of needs. Claire walked in from the hallway, drying her hands with a dish towel. She stopped mid-step when she saw me. "Must be nice," she said, her voice sharp like she'd been rehearsing it all afternoon. "To come home and just do nothing." I blinked, not sure I heard her right. "I just got in," I said quietly. She scoffed and turned back toward the kitchen. "You're always just getting in, Ethan. And then you sit. I do everything around here." I opened my mouth, closed it again. There wasn't a point. She didn't see the mornings where I got up first, always first, so she could sleep. She didn't count the eggs I scrambled or the socks I matched for the kids or the toothpaste I wiped off their mouths before dropping them at school. She didn't see the late-night grocery run after work because she forgot we were out of milk. She only saw me now, sitting, still, tired. I picked up my phone, not out of defiance, just instinct. It was quieter in there. The screen lit up and with it, the illusion of control. A feed full of people laughing at things I understood, strangers giving advice without judgment, a stupid meme that made me smile for the first time all day. Here, no one rolled their eyes when I didn't jump up fast enough. No one told me I was a burden. Claire muttered something under her breath from the sink, and I pretended not to hear. I used to bring her flowers every first Friday of the month. She used to kiss me for it. Last week, she left them in the wrapping on the counter until they wilted. The house smelled like cooking oil and tiredness. The kids were arguing upstairs about a missing dinosaur. I should have gotten up. I should have helped. But I just sat there, phone in hand, letting her words sink somewhere deeper than they should have. "You do nothing in this house." Maybe I was disappearing, but not because I stopped trying. It's because I kept trying and no one noticed. She used to love lilies. I remember the first time I brought them home. We had just moved into the old apartment, the one with the leaky window and creaky floors, and I walked in with a cheap grocery store bouquet, nervous and proud. She lit up like I'd brought her the moon. Said no one had ever thought to surprise her, just because. Back then, just because was enough. Now I still bring them. First Friday of every month. I switch up the colors, sometimes toss in a sunflower or two, depending on what's left on the shelf. But lately they end up in a chipped vase behind the toaster, unopened, still wrapped in plastic, like something she forgot she didn't ask for. Last week, she didn't even look up from her laptop. I know this probably sounds like whining. Flowers don't pay bills. Romance doesn't solve the dishes. I get that. But it was never about the lilies. It was about remembering, about trying. I kept trying. Every month it's like I'm knocking on the door of something we lost, hoping it'll crack open again. But it doesn't. She's always too tired, too busy, or too angry and doesn't know why. She's a great mom. I mean that. She's patient with the kids in a way I never learned how to be. She reads to them at night with voices, makes their snacks into shapes, knows which pair of socks are their favorites. I see her love them, and it's beautiful. I just don't know when she stopped loving me the same way. Sometimes I think she resents me, but can't quite say it out loud. I work more now. She wanted those 2 vacations a year, and they don't come cheap. So I put in extra hours, take on late calls, bring work home on weekends. We've been to Disney twice and the coast once last year, but she still sighs when I walk in late, like I'm choosing work over her, like I want to be gone. But if I didn't do it, who would? She used to thank me for little things. Thanks for running out to get almond milk. Thanks for letting me sleep in. Thanks for folding the laundry. Now it's silence. Or worse, the kind of half-hearted thanks that sounds more like a chore. I still hold her some nights when the kids are finally asleep and the house is quiet, but she turns away more often now. And when she says goodnight, it feels like a period at the end of a very long sentence I don't remember writing. The flowers sit wilted by Sunday. And still, I buy them again, just in case. I never minded working hard. Honestly, I took pride in it. I like being the one who made sure the lights stayed on, the fridge stayed full, the gas tank never dipped too low. Claire had dreams, big ones. 2 family vacations a year, the kind with matching swimsuits and smiling photos, and core memories for the kids. I wanted that for her, for us. So I said yes. Yes to the overtime. Yes to the freelance contract that kept me up past midnight. Yes to skipping lunch some days just to make deadlines. I kept saying yes until I didn't have a single part of the day left that was mine. The plan was simple. Work hard now so we could rest later. But later never really came. Instead, the harder I worked, the more invisible I felt. It was like the more I gave, the less it meant. The vacations, they happened, and they were beautiful for about 10 minutes at a time. Then it was tantrums and sunscreen in the eyes and Claire snapping at me for forgetting the charger. I'd watch other dads stretch out on beach towels with cold drinks while I chased a toddler back from the waterline and tried to book dinner reservations from my phone. And when we got home, it was like none of it counted. I'd sit down after a 14-hour day, and Claire would walk past me with a laundry basket, eyes sharp, voice cold. You always come home and act like you're entitled to rest. What about me? What about her? She says she's the one always picking up the pieces. And maybe she is. I'm not saying I do everything. I'm not perfect, but I'm exhausted. I miss breathing without guilt. I miss walking into my own home without bracing for an ambush of sighs and thinly veiled accusations. The worst part is, I don't even fight back anymore. Not because I agree, but because I'm tired of defending myself in my own marriage. It always turns into a list. What I didn't do, what I forgot, what I should have known. And I just shut down. So I scroll, not to avoid her, not really, but to find something that doesn't ask me to prove I'm trying. Just a reel of dumb videos, a thread of jokes, a place where I'm not wrong for sitting down. She says I'm addicted to my phone. Maybe she's right. Or maybe it's the only place I'm allowed to exist without disappointing someone. Either way, it's quiet here. And these days, quiet feels like mercy. Mornings used to be a shared thing. Back when the kids were still babies and Claire and I were figuring out how to be parents together, we had a rhythm. She'd feed them. I'd burp them. She'd doze off on the couch. I'd rock them back to sleep. We were tired, but we were in it side by side. Now mornings are mine alone. The alarm goes off at 6 a.m. I hit snooze once, just once, then drag myself into the kitchen while the house is still wrapped in that gray, pre-dawn stillness. I make breakfast, eggs, toast, sometimes pancakes if the kids beg the night before. Claire stays in bed. She says it's her only time to rest, and I don't argue. I just keep going. I pack the lunches, double-check backpacks, find missing shoes, sign permission slips. I lay out the kids' clothes. Half the time they ignore my choices and fight me on it, but I still try. Claire comes downstairs around 7:30, hair wrapped in a towel, scrolling on her phone. No good morning. No thanks for starting breakfast. Just a sigh when the youngest spills juice or forgets to brush his teeth. I used to think it would change. That once the kids got older or once things calmed down at work, we'd find each other again. I used to believe there was an end to the chaos, a return to us on the other side of the mess. But now it just feels like I'm holding the line alone. After I drop the kids off, I drive to work in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of the engine and the thoughts I don't say out loud. I think about how Claire used to leave me little notes in my lunch, how she used to kiss my forehead and tell me to be amazing today. I think about how long it's been since I've felt amazing to anyone. Sometimes I wonder what she tells her friends about me. Does she say I'm the guy who brings her coffee on Sunday mornings without being asked? Or am I just the guy always on his phone, checked out and emotionally unavailable? It's strange how easily you can vanish inside your own home. Not physically, no one's kicking me out. But emotionally, spiritually, I'm fading. Every time I do something quietly, just to help, just to keep the wheels turning, and it goes unnoticed, I fade a little more. I don't need applause. I'm not asking for gold stars, but a thank you would be nice. A look. A moment. Something to remind me I'm still visible. Lately, the only time I feel seen is when my screen lights up. And that's not a marriage, that's survival. Saturday mornings used to mean sleeping in. Not anymore. Now they mean cleats and water bottles and wiping peanut butter off a 6-year-old's cheek while trying to find the one missing shin guard he swears he left right there. I'm usually out the door by 8 a.m., balancing 2 granola bars, a coffee I never finish, and a kid who can't tie his laces right but insists on doing it himself. I never played football growing up. I wasn't the sporty type. But when our son said he wanted to try, I signed him up the next day. I cleared my weekends, bought a folding chair, and started calling out encouragement like a dad who knew what he was doing. He lights up when I cheer for him. That look, pure pride, like he's 10 feet tall, that's the kind of thing you don't forget. Claire used to come too in the beginning. She'd sit next to me on the sidelines, warm coffee in her hands, cheering just as loud. We laughed a lot in those early days, took pictures, shared little jokes about the over-enthusiastic dads yelling like it was the Premier League. Now she stays home. I need one morning to myself, she says. I'm always with the kids. I don't argue. I don't point out that I work 50 hours a week, that I make breakfast before she's even out of bed, or that I handle pickups, practice, bath time, and whatever else needs doing. I just nod and get the kids into the car. It's always just me now, me and the other dads and the occasional mom with a camera. We make small talk. I smile, but I don't join in much. I scroll through my phone while the kids warm up. Sometimes I snap a photo and send it to Claire. She never responds. After the game, I took our son for ice cream. He tells me about the pass he made, the kid who fouled him, how he wants to practice more. I listen, really listen, and tell him I'm proud of him. I mean it every time. When we get home, Claire doesn't ask how the game went. She's usually in the kitchen or folding laundry or scrolling through her own screen. I mention the score or the ice cream flavor. She nods, distracted. Sometimes I wonder if she even wants this version of our life anymore. Not just football, but me, United States. I'm trying, in all the quiet ways, the kind that don't make noise or come with fanfare. The kind you do because you love someone, even when it feels like they stopped noticing a long time ago. But it's hard not to wonder how long someone can keep showing up without being seen. And it's hard not to love your phone a little too much when it's the only thing that doesn't talk over you. Sometimes I catch myself staring at her across the dinner table, just watching. She's still beautiful. That part never changed. Her hair's tied up the way she always used to wear it when she was busy, strands falling around her face. The kids are shouting over one another, spilling rice on the floor, laughing with mouths full, and Claire's in the middle of it all, managing everything like a conductor of chaos. She's a great mom, maybe the best I've ever seen, but somewhere along the way, she stopped being my person, or maybe I stopped being hers. After dinner, I clean up, not because she asked me to, not because it's expected, just because that's what I do. I clear the plates while she gets the kids into pajamas. I wipe the counters, sweep under the table. No one notices. No one says a word. And when I finally sit down on the couch for a moment, just to breathe, there it is again. That look, the one that says, must be nice to relax. Tonight, she doesn't even say anything, just walks past me with the laundry basket like she's doing it all alone. I open my phone, not to run away, but because I can't sit in that silence. Not that kind of silence, the kind that screams. And sure enough, 30 seconds in, you're always on your phone. I close my eyes for a moment, count to 5. Then I set it down on the armrest like it's some kind of weapon. I just needed a minute, I say. Just one. Claire doesn't answer. She's already in the other room, her footsteps soft, her voice rising as she tells the kids to get back in bed. I hear her laugh a little, genuinely. Warm. The kind of laugh I haven't heard pointed in my direction for months. I don't think she hates me. I really don't. I think she's tired, overwhelmed, worn down by the same routine, the same demands, the same expectations. Maybe she doesn't even know how cold she's become with me. Maybe she doesn't notice that I'm still trying, that I never stopped. But I feel it. Every time I do something kind and it goes unnoticed. Every time she walks by me like I'm just furniture. Every time I reach for her and she turns away. My phone doesn't argue. It doesn't sigh. It doesn't roll its eyes when I finally sit down. It just lights up and offers a scroll through other people's moments, their jokes, their thoughts. It makes me feel human, just for a little while. And maybe that's pathetic, but it's also honest. Because some nights, it's the only place I still feel like I matter. The dishes were done. The kids were finally asleep after 3 rounds of water, 2 made-up bedtime stories, and one tantrum about a missing stuffed dinosaur. The house was quiet in that fragile way it only is after 9 p.m., like everything's balanced on a wire. Claire was curled up on her side of the couch, scrolling. I sat on the other end, phone in hand, pretending to read an article I wasn't actually processing. I could feel it building, that pressure in my chest, the kind that rises when you keep swallowing what you should have said weeks ago. She sighed, loud, the kind of sigh that has years in it. "What now?" I asked quietly. She didn't look up. "Just tired. Everything always falls on me." I stared at her, my stomach twisted. There it is again. I set my phone down, rubbed my palms against my jeans. My voice came out lower than I meant, but steady. "You really think I do nothing, don't you?" She blinked, glanced at me. "What? You think I come home just to sit around and ignore you?" I said, looking at her directly for the first time in hours. "You think I work all day, make breakfast, do drop-offs, take our son to football, clean up after dinner, and sit here like some selfish, lazy stranger who does nothing?" She straightened up a little, like she wasn't sure where this was going. "I'm not asking for a trophy, Claire," I continued. "But God, can I get a thank you? A smile? Some part of you that remembers I'm trying?" She opened her mouth, but I didn't stop. "I know you're tired. I know it's hard. But so is being treated like I'm invisible in my own home. So is giving everything and being told it's not enough. You don't see me anymore. You don't hear me. You don't even like me, Claire. And when I sit here on my phone, it's not because I don't care. It's because it's the only place I don't feel judged." The room was dead quiet. She didn't interrupt, just sat there, stunned. Maybe for the first time she saw it, how much I'd been caring, how quiet I'd gone, not out of peace, but because there was no point talking when every word got thrown back at me. "I love you," I said finally, "but I'm drowning here, and I don't think you even notice." She looked at me then, really looked. Her face was soft, confused, maybe even scared. "I didn't know," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's the problem." She didn't speak again that night, and neither did I. But for once, my phone stayed in my pocket. The silence that followed wasn't angry. It was heavy, like something had cracked open between us, and now neither of us knew what to do with the pieces. She stayed on her side of the couch, legs pulled up, face turned away. I could see her thinking, or avoiding thinking. Hard to tell with Claire. I sat there for a while listening to the refrigerator hum and the faint tick of the hallway clock, wondering if saying all that had helped or only made it worse. Eventually I got up and went to bed. Alone. I lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for the sound of her footsteps. But they never came. The next morning I got up before the alarm like always. Made breakfast. Toasted the bagels just right. Cut the strawberries the way the kids liked. She came downstairs halfway through, eyes puffy like she hadn't slept either. She didn't say anything, just moved around the kitchen grabbing mugs and cereal boxes. I didn't push it. The kids bounced in like nothing had happened. I poured juice and buttered toast, nodded along to stories about recess drama and a wobbly tooth. Claire laughed when our youngest tried to make a joke about toot and fruit, and for a second it felt normal again. Almost warm. But when the kids were finally out the door, the quiet returned. Claire leaned against the counter, arms folded, and looked at me. Really looked. "I didn't realize," she said softly, "that I was hurting you." I nodded, unsure what to do with that. It wasn't an apology, not exactly, but it was something. "I'm not perfect," I said. "I don't expect you to be either. But I'm tired of feeling like everything I do is invisible." She swallowed hard. "I guess I got used to it. You doing everything?" I stopped thinking about how much you were carrying. I nodded again. I just want to be your partner, Claire. Not your enemy, not your employee, and definitely not a ghost. She walked over slowly, her hands twisting in front of her. Then she reached for mine. I didn't pull away. I don't want you to feel alone, she said. I didn't know you were that lonely. I looked at her for a long moment, trying to decide if this was the start of something new or just another moment that would fade like the flowers on the counter. But her grip didn't loosen, and her eyes didn't shift away. Then help me feel like I'm home again, I said. She nodded. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't magic. But it was the first real thing we'd shared in months. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't reach for my phone. That day moved slower than most. Not in a bad way, just quieter. Claire didn't snap at me when I forgot to put the wet laundry in the dryer. She didn't sigh when I left my coffee mug in the sink. She didn't say much at all, really, but there was a difference in the way she moved around me, like she was watching something closely. Like she'd finally realized I wasn't just background noise. Later that afternoon, I picked up our son from football practice. He ran to the car grinning, socks muddy, cheeks red from the cold. I scored today, he yelled before he even closed the door. I cheered, clapped his shoulder, told him I was proud. And I meant it, I always do. Claire was on the porch when we pulled into the driveway. Usually she's inside, distracted or busy, but today she waited. Just stood there, arms crossed but not cold. She smiled at our son, tousled his hair, kissed his forehead. Then she looked at me. It wasn't the look I'd gotten used to, the one full of disappointment and blame. It wasn't full of awe or apology either, just presence, acknowledgement. Like she saw me again. I carried the gear in and helped the kids wash up. She cooked dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta, but she made enough for all of us to eat together at the table. That hadn't happened in a while. There were no jabs, no cold silences, just conversation. Clumsy, light, normal. After the kids were asleep, we ended up on the couch again. Same spots as always. This time I didn't reach for my phone. Neither did she. She looked at me. You know, I used to brag about you, she said, voice soft. To my friends. How you worked so hard and still came home and made breakfast and took the kids out so I could rest. I looked at her, unsure of what to say. I stopped bragging, she said, almost like a confession. I think I got resentful, and I don't even know why. You didn't change. I did. I swallowed the knot in my throat. I just wanted to feel like what I was doing mattered, I said, even if it's just showing up every day. She reached over then, slowly, and took my hand. It does, she said. I see that now. And I believed her. Maybe not all the way, not yet, but something inside me loosened. We didn't solve everything that night. We didn't fall back into some perfect version of us. But when she rested her head against my shoulder, I didn't feel the need to look for peace on a screen. For the first time in a long time, I found it right there, in the quiet weight of her beside me. Still imperfect, but maybe not invisible anymore. The next few days felt like we were learning how to walk again. Nothing dramatic changed, no sweeping gestures, no sudden declarations of love. But there was a softness we hadn't had in a long time, a kind of quiet respect returning in pieces. She didn't thank me for everything, but she started noticing. That was enough. One night, after I'd cleaned up the dinner dishes and she was drying her hands, she turned to me and said, "You're always the one who does this." I glanced up from wiping the counter. "The dishes," she nodded. "I never really thought about it. You just always do it." I shrugged. "It needs doing." "No," she said, stepping closer. "You need to be appreciated for it. And I haven't been fair to you." It wasn't a full apology, but it was honest, real. I took it, held on to it like a thread back to something we'd lost. But healing doesn't move in a straight line. 2 days later, she snapped at me again. Something small, about forgetting to switch the laundry. And I felt it, that old shame crawling up the back of my neck. The urge disappear back into the glow of my phone. I almost did. My hand was halfway to my pocket, but instead I said, "Please don't do that." She froze. "Do what?" Make me feel like nothing I do matters. It was a towel, Claire, not a betrayal. She blinked, caught off guard. And to her credit, she stepped back, breathed. You're right, she said softer. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but we were trying. And I was trying too to be present, to not retreat when it got hard, to speak up when something hurt instead of swallowing it and scrolling through someone else's life to avoid mine. The thing no one tells you is that marriage doesn't unravel in explosions. It frays in silence, in assumptions, in the tiny daily choices to look past each other instead of toward. I spent too long thinking my phone was the problem, that maybe if I just put it away things would get better. But the truth is, I didn't pick up my phone to escape her. I picked it up because I didn't know how to ask for connection without feeling like a burden. Now I'm learning. We still mess up. We still get tired. But she says thank you more now. I kiss her on the forehead when she forgets to eat lunch. We sit next to each other with no phone sometimes. Not because we're trying to prove something, just because we want to. And for the first time in a long while, I don't feel like I have to disappear to feel peace. I just have to stay and hope she keeps choosing to see me. Even with things getting better, if I can call it that, there are still moments when I vanish. And it happens in the in-betweens, the times when she's talking to the kids and I chime in, and no one acknowledges I spoke. When I bring in the groceries and she walks past me to grab the mail, not even a glance. When I fix the leaky faucet or unclog the drain she's been complaining about for weeks, and all I get is silence. Not even the kind that's peaceful, just the kind that swallows effort whole. It's a strange kind of pain, being invisible in the house you keep running. I don't need applause. I'm not looking for Claire to write a thank you speech every time I wipe the counters or fold the laundry. But sometimes I wonder, if I stopped doing these things, would she even notice? Or would the absence just become another thing she resents? I stood in the hallway the other night and watched her reading bedtime stories to the kids. She was radiant, soft and patient, their eyes wide with wonder. I stayed there a while, just listening to her voice, the way she brought the words to life. She's amazing with them, always has been. And then she kissed them goodnight, tucked them in, walked right past me without seeing me there. Not angry, not cold, just unseeing. I went downstairs, sat on the edge of the couch, and stared at the flowers I'd brought home that morning. Pale yellow tulips, her favorite in college. I placed them in the vase myself, trimmed the stems, even remembered to fill the water halfway so they'd last longer. They were still wrapped in the store's brown paper, untouched. I checked my phone. Nothing. No message. No thank you. No photo of the bouquet with a caption like she used to post. Just a quiet house and a few unread work emails. I scrolled for a bit. Habit, I guess. But this time it felt different. Less like a refuge, more like a mirror I didn't want to look into anymore. I didn't want to retreat again. I just wanted to matter. When Claire came downstairs, I looked up. Did you see the flowers? She blinked like it hadn't even registered. Oh, yeah, they're nice. Thanks. Then she sat down and opened her laptop. That was it. I know she's trying in her own way. I know things aren't as sharp between us as they used to be. But when your love becomes part of the background, part of the structure people forget is even holding the house up. It hurts. I don't need to be everything. I just want to be something. Something more than the man who does the dishes and disappears. There's a kind of ache that settles in your chest when you realize you could leave the room and no one would notice for a while. It's not dramatic. Not like in the movies where someone storms out and the world goes quiet. No slam doors, no shouting matches. Just silence. The kind that confirms what you've already feared for a long time. You've stopped being someone's person. I used to come home and feel her light up. I remember walking through the door after a long shift, still in my work boots, and Claire would smile like I was her favorite part of the day. She'd ask how things went, not just out of obligation, but because she wanted to know. She used to lean into me when I passed her in the kitchen, whisper little jokes, brush her fingers against mine when no one was looking. Now when I come home, she barely lifts her eyes from the screen. I tell her I'm home, and she says, okay, that's it. No warmth, no spark, no sign she even missed me. It's not that I expect a parade, but it would be nice to feel like I'm more than just the guy who pays the bills and wipes the counters. Tonight, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the porch for a while. Just me and the night air. No phone, no scrolling, just thinking, trying to remember the last time she looked at me like she used to. I couldn't pinpoint it. Not because it wasn't there, but because it's been too long to hold on to clearly. Claire came out after a while and sat next to me, barefoot, arms wrapped around her knees. She didn't say anything at first. Then softly she said, "You've been distant lately." I laughed under my breath, not out of humor, more like disbelief. "Distant?" I said. "I'm right here. I've always been right here. You're the one who stopped looking." She didn't argue, just stared out into the dark. "I miss being missed," I said finally. Her face changed then, not completely, but enough, like something was sinking in. "I don't know when we stopped being us," she said, voice low. "I didn't mean to let go of that." "You didn't have to mean to," I replied. "You just had to stop trying." She turned to me then, eyes wet. "I'm sorry." I didn't say anything back. Not yet, because sorry is a start, not a fix. But she reached for my hand, and even though it didn't undo the months I spent wondering if I mattered, it reminded me that maybe, just maybe, she still wants me to, even if she forgot how for a while. There's this line people like to draw, this bright, clear, moral boundary between loyalty and betrayal. You're either faithful or you're not. Simple. But I've learned there are quieter ways to leave someone. Ways that don't involve motel rooms or secret texts, but leave just as much wreckage. I never cheated on Claire, not even close. But I left her, piece by piece, long before I ever said it out loud. I left when I stopped sharing the little things, when I stopped telling her about the weird dreams, the annoying coworker, the new sandwich place near my office. I left when I started timing how long it took her to say something kind. I left when I realized my phone knew more about how I felt than she did. And she left me too, in her own ways. With every "you do nothing" that gutted me, every glance past me like I was just part of the furniture. We stayed under the same roof, but we were ghosts passing in a house that once felt like a home. Tonight I told her I need space. Not the kind where you go sleep on the couch and hope tomorrow is softer. The kind where you pack a bag and leave. Because you've forgotten who you are when you're not constantly explaining yourself. She was folding laundry on the bed when I said it. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I told her, voice calm. "But I don't even recognize myself anymore. I've become someone I resent. Someone who's afraid to sit down in his own living room." Claire didn't look up at first. She just kept folding a tiny pair of socks, like keeping her hands busy could somehow keep her from hearing the words. "You're leaving?" she asked finally, her voice shaky. "I'm not cheating. I'm not running off to someone else. I'm not angry. But yes, I'm leaving. For a while." She stared at me then, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something raw in her face. Not just pain, not just confusion. Something else. Fear, maybe, or realization. "I didn't know it was this bad," she said. "I know," I replied. "That's the problem." I packed a small duffel, just clothes, a toothbrush, my laptop. Nothing dramatic. I didn't slam the door or make a scene. I told her I'd check in, that I'd still pick up the kids from football, still make their Sunday pancakes, but I couldn't keep living in a house where I didn't feel like a person anymore. As I drove to the small rented room I'd found a few miles away, I didn't feel free. I didn't feel brave. I just felt honest. Sometimes staying is the real betrayal, when both of you are pretending that love can survive in silence. And sometimes leaving is the first true act of love, even if it's for yourself. A week passed. 7 days of quiet mornings without the sound of her footsteps on the stairs. 7 dinners alone. 7 nights of staring at the ceiling in a rented room that smelled like old carpet and air freshener. I still picked up the kids, still made their breakfast on Sunday, still drove our son to football practice. But the space between Claire and me wasn't measured in miles. It was measured in everything unsaid. I think that's the part that eats at you the most. Not the shouting, Not even the crying. It's the words you both hold in your mouths for so long, they start to rot there. Claire texted me 3 times. Short messages, logistics. Can you pick up Leo at 4? Leftover lasagna in the fridge for tomorrow. He needs clean socks for football. I replied with the same kind of distance. Polite, efficient, empty. But on the 8th night, my phone lit up with something different. Can we talk? Not about the kids, just us. I sat there for a while staring at it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I thought about saying no. I thought about ignoring it altogether, but I didn't. Okay, tomorrow night, after bedtime. When I walked into the house, it smelled like chamomile tea and something warm in the oven. The kids were already asleep. The lights were low. Claire was sitting on the edge of the couch in her robe, fingers tangled in her lap like she didn't know where to begin. She didn't stand up when I came in, just looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. I've been thinking about everything you said, she started, voice quiet, and everything I didn't. I didn't sit down right away. I leaned against the wall, unsure what kind of conversation we were about to have. A goodbye? A truce? A war? You were right, she said. I stopped seeing you. I stopped saying thank you. I stopped showing up. I exhaled slowly. My throat felt tight. I hadn't been prepared for honesty. I got so wrapped up in surviving motherhood, in managing everything, that I forgot we were in this together, she went on. You didn't leave me. I left you first. I just didn't walk out the door to do it. I sat down then, still a few feet away, but facing her now. I'm not perfect either, I said. I shut down. I buried everything. I thought if I just kept doing the right things, eventually you'd see me again. But I didn't say it out loud. That's on me. We sat there in silence for a minute, not the heavy kind, not the angry kind, just quiet, mutual, real. I want to try, she said eventually. Not just go through the motions, not just fix what's broken, but figure out why we stopped talking before it broke. I want that too, I said, and I meant it. She reached out her hand, and this time I didn't hesitate. We didn't solve everything that night, but we finally had the conversation we'd been avoiding for years. Not a fight, not a list of grievances, just the truth. And that was enough to begin again.